I spend my life Zooming. When it doesn't work, I'm in trouble.
There you go. All right, let's call it to order. Call the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee electronic meeting, June 9th, 2020, 10 a.m. Call it to the public.
There is no public.
Okay, I could go see if my wife wants to ask. Never mind. All right. Next up, consider accepting and placing on file the May 28th, 2020 routine personnel items as presented. Tobin, what do you think?
Pretty routine stuff. I see we have hired a senior assistant public defender.
$55,000.
Yes,
That's how is that on the salary scale? That seems low, but is that with normal? Where's that on the salary range for a new hired public senior assistants? Is that right in line? Because
Yep, let's start.
okay, all right, there you have it.
He's doing a great job. We're very happy with our attorneys.
Good. So, all right, I got nothing on that. So I'll make a motion that goes forward to the board. Start accepting and placing on file the May 28th, 2020 routine personnel items as presented.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, next up. Consider approving the agreement between Isabella County and MGT of America Consulting LLC for the preparation of the county's fiscal year 2019 cost allocation plan in the amount of $12,000 and authorize the board chair to sign the same. Discussion. Margaret, quick question on that. In the amount of 12,000, do we want to get that up to 36,000 or you just want to get the 12 so we don't have to come back for board approval? How would that work for the next 2 years? I know they're option years basically, but, or do you want to come back?
I got kicked out of the meeting, so I kind of lost the question.
Okay. My question was, it says in the amount of 12,000. I know that's for 1 year. I think we have two 1-year options to see how they're going to work since they're a first timer for us. Do you want to approve it up to 36,000, 12,000 each per year? Or you just want to leave it at 12,000 and come back for board approval in next year?
Well, I think that our intention was this is a new company for us, and maybe we should just the first year and see if we're happy.
Okay.
On the other hand, I think that the rate staying the same might only be held for 3 years if we sign it for 3 years. Nicole, do you know the differences?
I do believe, Margaret, that the option years will stay. Oh, and then she fell off. I do believe, commissioners, that the option years would stay at $12,000 price, even after the first year. I'll definitely confirm that with them.
Yeah, I was just seeing what they had in the contract. Sorry if I turned my back on you. I'm not doing it on purpose.
And since at the time of writing of the staff report, the contract that MGT offered had been at legal review. Since then, we've gotten word back from county legal that they would prefer the contract follow our format and that we just reference the MGT contract as an exhibit in our contract.
Okay.
So I'll be sure to, if you recommend this firm, I'll be sure to get you that county form contract. So you can review it after finance, and that'll be the one that goes in the packet for the full board.
Okay.
But
Tobin, you
I'll
okay with
confirm that.
Yeah.
Tobin,
Yeah.
you okay with that? I am
Yep,
too.
that
so.
makes sense. Yep.
Okay. I was just seeing if they had anything in here.
We missed that, Margaret.
Legal counsel prepared that document that you're going to.
Our
Yeah.
counsel prepared the document that I will send out.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks under compensation too. It looks like they are holding a fixed fee of 12,000 for option year 1 and option year 2. So that's under the, at least the, not the final version, but at least under the compensation part, they are showing it fixed fee. They say fixed fee. So I think we're good on that question. So, okay.
So we've got a general fund line item for this.
We do. We actually pay it out of the administrator controllers department in our contracted services. We knew that the contract was coming up. So we have built in a little extra, going forward in the next year's budget. it's kind of one of those where in our current budget, we paid for the fiscal year 18 plan. In 21 budget, we'll pay for the preparation of this fiscal year 19 plan. And so we will, we'll have it built into the contracted services.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I got a couple other questions if you want me to shoot.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay,
Or you want to make a motion first and discuss it, or what do you want to do?
I can make a motion. I'll make a
Right.
motion that we approve the cost allocation plan, recommended vendor proposal, and send it to the full board.
I'll support that. Discussion.
Okay, so my first question is, what the heck does this have to do with MDHHS Office of Child Support?
Sure. So for about 30 years, the county has been made to supply this cost allocation report to the state, DHHS Child Support. And it's because of the federal dollars that we get that support the Title 4D child support program that we run or that we administer. Because we get those federal dollars, they fall under more scrutiny. And we've always had to justify the allocation of those central services because of our Title 4D program. The neat thing about it is it's a requirement to have the plan for Title 4D, but in order to figure out the piece of pie that Title 4D gets, you have to figure out the whole pie. So not only do we get to understand indirect costs for friend of the court, we get to understand what indirect costs are for the whole county. And that's what we're doing now to, charge those outside funds, if you will, above and beyond general fund, those indirect costs. And this is the plan that justifies those costs.
Okay, okay. So there are 3 areas that we charge cost back to, cost allocation?
There's actually
right?
quite a few central service areas. So there's like accounts payable, the payroll function. We charge back the IT function. We charge back the building and grounds function. All those central services that really benefit all departments. That's what gets allocated back in the cost plan.
Well, weren't there 3 departments that actually pay cost allocation charges back to the general fund?
I see. There's actually 5.
Okay,
Central Dispatch, 911, the MRF, Parks and Rec, Mission on Aging. That's 4 of the 5.
Is it inspections?
It is. Good job,
All right.
Jessica.
Good.
Yes, inspections.
okay.
Those special revenue funds, that have those outside funds.
All right, then my next question is, are we looking to expand that out to charge more departments cost allocation charges or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. It has to make sense, right? A lot of those departments, we know what a lot of the general fund departments might pay in indirect costs, but does it make a lot of sense to charge them indirect costs if the revenue and the expense are both in general fund? All you really end up doing is kind of inflating your revenues and inflating your expenses when you're paying yourself. The indirect costs that we charge to those 5 funds, those are dollars that come into general fund. It's a one way and it's a positive for general fund.
Okay.
But really, because the general fund's already made those expenses, through my staff time, through Margaret's staff time, through payroll benefits staff time, through accounts payable, through IT, the expenses are already there in general fund.
These 5 have their own revenue streams, and that's why we're charging them.
Got it. Yes.
Makes sense.
Because if the county wasn't performing these functions for those outside funds, they'd have to pay for them. They'd have to contract for those services themselves. And this is basically them reimbursing the county for those services. They would have to contract to run their business if they stood alone.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The other thing was,
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
We lost her.
Good.
Maybe I'll text her and ask her, maybe she should just call in.
She's calling me, Nicole.
Okay, that's perfect.
On your hands-free.
Yeah, maybe with your video off, the audio quality would improve.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Margaret on speaker. She's unable to call in. It's not working for her. So Margaret, can you say something so see if they can hear you?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Very well.
I apologize. This IT has been working out what's wrong with my laptop that this is happening. So I sincerely apologize this has happened. It has blown up worse today than other days. I don't know if you've already voted on the cost allocation discussion or not, because I couldn't comprehend that. Have you taken a vote yet?
No, we're in discussion.
Okay. I'd like to say a couple things, if I may, in addition to the great job Nicole's done. Commissioner Hope, your questions are very good questions. I will tell you that, you know, what the cost allocation plan does is set the indirect rates. So when you read through the plan, and we can forward you the current plan, I know that Commissioner Horton has seen the plan. We'll forward it to you. It's if you're not tired at night, take a read before you go to bed. It's not exciting, but when you look through that, you'll be able to tell that every department has an indirect cost rate. So, for example, one of the things that I have fought for so hard in our negotiations with MIDC is to have them accept the indirect cost rates for counties for doing the public defender's office. So this year, the indirect cost rate said that all of the indirect costs related to the prosecutor's office, which is what we're currently utilizing as our measuring stick for the public defender, was about $162,000. So we received $162,000 in that grant for indirect costs or overhead costs. So my time, Nicole's time, buildings and grounds time, those types of things. Payroll, accounts payable, the treasurer's office for receipting in the funds, you know, our accounting services in our department, all those things. This year, it's looking like that's going to go down a couple $1,000s, but still, if we didn't have this certified cost allocation plan done by a third-party outside source, we wouldn't have been able to receive those funds for all the overhead costs the public defender's office is costing us.
So it's more than paid for itself.
Oh my gosh, it is more than paid for itself. And you know, we didn't start using any indirect. When I got here, I was kind of surprised we weren't doing indirect cost rates. And before your time as a commissioner, I think perhaps I think it was probably the term before you became a commissioner. I put together a very large presentation of the board of commissioners about cost allocations and indirect costs and those types of things. And that's when we started charging the non-general fund departments an indirect cost rate to pay to the general fund for the overhead costs that we do.
Tobin, you have anything else, or?
I just have one other question, Nicole. It says there were three responses and one was deemed unresponsive. What was the one unresponsive one? What was the issue there?
Interestingly enough, it's been the vendor that we've been with for about 20 years. And all of our RFPs that we release undergo an administrative review. There's several must-haves. And there's 3 exhibits to each of our RFPs. And Exhibit A is the certification of assurances. It's got to be signed by someone that can legally bind the company. And there's a lot of things that they're agreeing to and assuring in that. And they missed it. They didn't include it. And other RFPs, in the administrative review, if they don't check that box, they're not deemed responsive and they don't go on to the next level of evaluation. So they
Yeah.
missed a very important attachment to their
Okay.
proposal.
Yeah, I wondered about that. So you answered 2 of my questions there with that response. So, yeah, this MGT, it looks like they've got extensive experience all over the state. Most of the counties, actually.
Yes, they do. And I know that our friend of the court office now uses them for the Title 4D billings. It's a way that they allocate and account for their time spent on certain types of cases. And so I know MGT prepares those for friend of the court, and they've been happy with that. They've made the switch from that other company to them. And so I think that's a positive sign locally. We've got experience with them too.
Yeah, great. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I just have, like Margaret had mentioned, I've seen that report before. Margaret, if you could get me a copy of that, because I think it's in my stuff behind me there, but I'm not 100% certain. So if you could share that with me also, that would be great. You
Sure.
can hear this.
Just,
Yeah,
I can hear it. And just so the commissioners know, the plan is like, we're in fiscal year 2020 now, but the plan that is the most recent plan was for fiscal year 18, because they cannot start doing their job until our audit is done and certified and submitted to Treasury, whatever. So when you look at it, you might go, well, this is the old one, send me the current one. That is the current one. And we'll make sure that,
Yeah.
would you like it too, Commissioner Hope?
Sure.
Okay, we will get that to you.
Thank you.
other than that, I have nothing. I mean, I think we've talked about this. We did this last year. Was last year the first year or the second year that we did this cost allocation for like Commission on Aging and those other ones for our budget
Well,
this
I
year?
think it was the second year that we
Second year.
charged it, but we've had the cost allocation plan done forever because he
Mhm.
needed it for federal funding.
Right. Okay. All
Pardon me?
right. Yeah, I got nothing else to add. So Tobin, nothing else?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Goes forward 2-0. Invoice list discussion. Tobin, anything?
Nope, I didn't have nothing really stood out to me on these.
I'm just gonna pop it up real quick because I did not print those off. So bear with me here as I try to go back and forth between computer screens. I didn't see anything really either. So yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward, I thought. I'm sure there'll be something I'll see between now and our Board of Commissioners, and there usually is something I quickly look over now, but I didn't see anything that stood out. Pretty straightforward stuff. So,
Yeah.
okay. Next thing, COVID-19 update.
So I have an update when you're ready for it, Commissioner.
Yeah, we'll start with you, Margaret. Go ahead.
Okay.
Margaret, can you hear me? We lose her?
Margaret, are you there?
Is your call still connected?
Margaret, are you there? It's still connected on my end. Hello? Sounds like dead air, so I'm gonna try calling her back. All right, I got her. All right.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
now we can, yep.
Oh, okay. So apologize for that. So, you know, as a county, we're transitioning into phase 2 of the COVID-19 plan. We're still strongly doing promote remote, and many of those whose jobs can be performed remotely are continuing to do so. Yesterday, I spoke with one of the elected officials and a department head in the county building. And so far, there have been 0 issues reported that I know of or that they know of regarding, and these would both be 2 departments that would have people coming in and out if they needed to. They've not had any issues with the public calling for appointments, a very low rate of people contacting or going online trying to find out, you know, how to fill out the form or whatever. Very low rate of people coming into the building, and there has not been, as far as I know, any reporting of anybody standing outside, you know, pounding on the door or whatever. So I think that the messaging seems to be working well. Yesterday, I sent an email to all of our county employees, again, thanking them for their cooperation and support through this, knowing that it's a difficult time for everybody, maybe referring them back to the plan and reminding them of the requirements for social distancing and face coverings when they leave their private offices or their personal workspace. Frankly, one of the unintended consequences of the COVID-19 situation and the closure has been, you know, some projects and things had to be put on hold. And one of those was the classification compensation study. But I want to make sure that you as the finance committee know that, you know, the work continues, the effort continues. So I had already, just before we closed, completed discussions with the trial court chief, Judge Janes. And he and I were in agreement and on the same page of what the recommendations were going to be. And again, when I say just prior to closure, I'm talking maybe the day before. So what I would like to do is, you know, the next step after the courts coming forward, of course, would have been the departments. So for the past 10 to 12 weeks, it's been pretty much a demand of almost 100% attention of dealing with the pandemic and leading through the crisis. And I have put the compensation study aside because in the priorities of what we had to do, while it's very important to me to get that completed, there were other things that had to be done and required attention. So now I want you to know, and you've seen it through the elected official situation, that I think I've developed a very positive process of discussions and input and frankly kind of negotiations and more discussions with the elected officials in the courts. And it has resulted, I think, in a very good outcome. So by the time it comes to the Board of Commissioners, you know, between us, there's no bloodlet. There's discussion, there's thought, there's input, but there isn't any going back to the drawing page. And I don't think that's where we want to go anyways. So that process has worked very well. I don't want to change the horse in the middle of the race. I don't want to, change that. That's the process people have seen. That's the process people are comfortable with. So on top of the COVID and us being closed for 10 to 12 weeks, I also want you to know that I'm going to be off work for a substantial amount of time coming up. I don't know what that time is. It's undetermined. Starting on June 22nd, I'm going to be having surgery. It's an orthopedic situation. It's not life-threatening, and I will be back as soon as I can. But the surgeon has made it very clear to me that he's not giving me an estimate of return at this point. I do not want to have Nicole pick this up. She'll have a heavy load as it is, stepping in and managing everything, and she will do a great job. You know, we all know Nicole is very competent and very able, and she'll do a fabulous job. But I don't think it's wise for us to change horses and change the process and bring her in. She has not participated much in the process. She did up front putting together the PowerPoint presentation. She participated 100%. She did that presentation and she did a great job. But moving forward from that point, I've managed all that and I would like to continue to do that. I think it will be a smoother transition. But it is not the fault of any of our department heads or employees or the court employees that COVID struck and we were all on stay at home for 10 weeks. And it certainly is not their fault that I have this situation that has to be taken care of. So what I would like to recommend is that we target September to present to the Finance Committee the remaining departments and courts classification recommendations. and that due to the unforeseen circumstances of COVID and mine being out for an extended length of time, which should not be punishing our employees, I would like for us to consider providing retroactive implementation of any of the positive wage changes, maybe back to April 1st. So that if in September, the Board of Commissioners decides, and we'll pick the course because I talked about them. They say, oh, you and Judge did a great job. We like everything you recommended. We're going to move this forward. I would want to have that be retroactive for those employees. And I know that might open discussion or concerns because you had a couple elected officials who wanted to have their departments and their offices and their pay retroactive to when we did law enforcement and the prosecutors. But I think this is a very dramatic, different situation. I think we have to take into consideration that the county's been closed for almost 12 weeks. And that just has to be not the fault of those employees. And the fact that I'm going to be out and don't really want to change our whole system while I'm out, I think the fair thing to do is to give me a chance to get back in the saddle, get this stuff done, get it pulled together, present it to you, move it on, but pay those employees and department heads in the courts retroactively. That's my study, my report, and my recommendation.
Calvin, got anything?
Well, had this not hit, this COVID, those recommendations would have been before us by now, probably. I mean, the way we were moving along with them.
Yes, they would have been.
So,
Yes, Calvin, they would have been.
So yeah, I don't have an issue with having, if we're not going to do it till September, that's almost a year out from when we started with the sheriff's department. So I don't have any problem making that retroactive back to April. That's my thought initially.
And I can tell both of you, if I'm able to come back earlier, I will come back earlier, obviously. And if I'm not able to come back earlier, eventually I will be able to resume working from home and, writing the staff reports and having the negotiations. I will tell you, the difficult negotiations and level of difficulties, I don't know that I want to use that term, but now that it's out there, I guess I have to finish my sentence. The more challenging discussions were with the elected officials in the courts. I mean, that's just part of working with elected officials. It went very well. I want you to know it went very well. And even in some areas that, we were far apart, in the end, we agreed. And I didn't want to bring a recommendation to the board and have an elected official or the judge stand up and go, heck no, I don't agree with that. That's crazy. We don't want to do that. So I want to just proceed with that process. And I think that it makes sense. And as far as the the department head departments, again, as I think I've said before, the Siegel Water study has great bones and there's great things in it. They missed the mark. They missed, just so you're prepared, I think they missed the mark pretty much with the courts. And I take that back. Maybe 20% they missed the mark. Parks, they missed the mark on a couple things. Community development, a couple things. But there's other departments that there won't be any recommended changes whatsoever from what they recommended. So I think that if we keep going with the process, it'll just be a cleaner and an easier thing to do. But again, I just think it is not their fault that these two unusual things happened at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Tobin?
No, sir.
All right, couple things. In regards to a retroactive back to April 1st, is that going to be just for, I don't know the answer to this question, so that's why I'm asking it. Is that going to be just for active employees? Does anybody retire from April 1st until now? Or is it are they going to get like additional pay, people who left, how is that going to work? Or
well, we do have an employee, and right off the top of my head, and I haven't done that research, so we'll have to do research. We do have an employee that we've had two. We have a department head in one department and an employee in another department. No, the other department is an elected official. So
yes, Drains was the other department, right? I think.
Yeah, that won't. Pardon me?
Yeah. Drains was the other department, right? Didn't Betty retire? out of drain?
Yeah, she's not in that class. She's already
Right.
had her classification approved for the drains. It would be, as far as I know, without doing the research, we have a person who did retire at the end of May. So, you know, we can talk if we want to go retroactive to that person back to April 1st, or we can decide that, the board can decide that, you know, if you left the county during that time or retired, then you're not eligible for it. I think that, I don't think we have a large number of those numbers, but let me look into that and I will get you that information.
I would think that, yeah, I would like to see it just for our active employees, but that again, I'll wait and see what the information is and see if it's worthwhile going down that path.
Sure, that's a good question.
I know also too, we got the budget. So I think Tobin, I think that's another reason why doing a little bit of delay here, having Jessica's going to probably be, no, excuse me, Jessica, I'm so sorry. Nicole's going to be very, not that Jessica's not going to be very busy on the budget, but we got the budget coming up too. And that's going to require a lot of time with Margaret being gone. I think Nicole is going to have to really put a lot of emphasis on that. Yeah, I'm in favor of doing the retro for sure. I think that's fair. The April 1st date. That's, again, we're trying to be fair. I think the last thing you want to do is, you know, we've worked so hard as commissioners and Margaret and Nicole and everyone else, Jessica, they've worked real hard to get employee morale, keeping full wages, full benefits during the last 3 months. You really don't want to have any backstepping on that. And I think not having everyone, for lack of a better term, get their chance or get at least something looked at, I don't think is very fair. I'm not in favor of going retro to any other situations other than the people who have not been met yet. I'm certainly not in favor. I would not be in favor of that, but I can see the point of going back to April 1st. I think that's a fair thing to do. Does that make sense? I don't know if I made sense on that last statement, but and I guess too, Margaret, another question that will come in front of us on this finance committee. And I don't know what we can, if you can talk about it at all, because well, with you being gone, how is that going to affect with the jail? I mean, I know we've got some things ongoing. I know we've got to.
Nicole is going to slide into that seat. Nicole sat in and she slid into the seat for another meeting with our work group when I was a guest lecturer at CMU this previous semester. So she's going to slide into the seat. That's going to just move forward. George and I have met with our team. So it's Chairman Green and myself, and then the sheriff. And although the jail administrator is not technically on the team, he's with the sheriff in these meetings, which makes sense. And then the architects, the engineers, the construction firm. We've been meeting all the way through this COVID thing every 2 weeks. So that's one of the things that I've been doing when I come up a day or two a week was having those meetings with George. You'll notice, well, you won't notice probably, but in the boardroom, when we're going to be out for a long period of time started, Michelle set up 2 long tables with 2 large screens on them and a laptop and a phone. So all of the go-to Zoom meetings or whatever regarding the Google Teams, all these meetings regarding the jail, I've been there in that room with George. And so we can work together on that. The sheriff's over across the sidewalk in his office. So Nicole will slide in, you know, everything has been, there's a record, there's all sorts of stuff. So that's not going to change the project at all. I don't want to change. I mean, I want everything in the county to move forward. I'm not the queen, you know, people can do without me. That's okay. But I do think that this classification project, to delegate that out now would not be the right thing to do. But other than that, I think that, you know, I don't have any doubt that Nicole's going to do a great job.
Okay. Something just popped in my head and it left that quick. So there you go. Yeah, like I said, it's going to be with everything ongoing. Again, we've got a lot of projects coming up in the county and being down 3 months, just like with the budget, I don't know if we can, I guess COVID did affect it somewhat with the budget as far as the money we get from the treasurer and tax collections. I mean, I don't know what the tax collections are going to be, but is that going to be addressed as far as money's coming over, things like that? How do you see anything being harmed by that? Or is that a question Steve Kernovic can answer better, maybe in a future meeting.
So here's the situation. You know, I do think that we can probably anticipate a change in revenues. You know, you listened to the presentation by Pete Preston last week at the Board of Commissioners meeting, and that's great news for us, that those co-township windmills are going to be generating that type of revenue for us. I do think that we're going to see revenue reductions from other areas. You know, obviously people haven't been registering as many deeds. Obviously people haven't been, people are still getting married, and Mindy's still doing that, and Karen's doing but I mean, there's less activity. The courts were down for a while, so there's less fees there. The state, you know, certainly has a financial, I don't want to say crisis issues that might affect our last revenue sharing payment. I mean, we realize that there, you know, is a good opportunity, and maybe there'll be more people who won't be able to pay their taxes, and maybe they're going to extend that. So going into the budget calendar that you approved is still in effect. The budget is in the process now already. So department heads' budgets were due into the administration on, I believe, this past Monday. We've given an extension to 1 or 2 here, but the budget process is moving forward. It's its own animal. You know, Melissa Franquist, one of our staff accountants, has been the budget queen for a couple of years for us now. She just moves along. She's doing a great job. And she and Nicole will be working on it as we move forward. And, you know, when I'm able to talk on the phone and feel like I'm representing myself well and the county well, we'll be having those discussions, and hopefully this Zoom thing will work and we can be doing Zoom meetings, Nicole and I. But again, the budget is something that it's its own animal. It's going to move forward. And do we know yet what kind of reductions we may or may not have in revenue? No, we don't. But I think it would be foolish to anticipate we're going to have all of the same level of revenue we've had before. But then we have some revenue that's going to replace some of that with the co-township. So I don't have a good answer for you, Jim. I can just tell you that we're moving forward with the budget, and it doesn't matter what happens in the outside world. It seems we're always in the same place about the middle of August going, holy Lord, we need more cash. And, you know, that's when you start looking for money in other areas. And I have told all of the department heads to be conservative in their requests. If you have a vehicle that you thought you were going to replace this year because you're at a certain mileage and that's what you've kind of agreed to, maybe you want to defer that. You know, if you can do anything with any of your other capital expenses and you can defer them without being injurious to anybody or affecting any of our resources, let's do that. So I think that you will see less requests for those types of things in this year's budget round.
Okay.
Could I add something too? I just want to say, you know, without a doubt, it is going to be uncertain going forward, but I want you to keep in mind that second quarter financial report that you got, where we were 50% through the year. I know COVID hadn't really touched that time frame yet, but we are really positioned well going into this. You know, that second quarter report was fabulous. So while it's uncertain, we are in a good position going into it financially. That helps.
I got nothing more for Margaret. Real quick though, you said you're not getting any complaints as far as people coming into the building, not having just open doors at the building. Never seems to be working out pretty good on that then.
Yes, and I'm working from home today. I asked Jessica to check my voicemails this morning, and there weren't any voicemails for me. And trust me, when people are trying to figure out who they want to register an issue or a complaint with, and they go on our website and they look through things, when they get to my title, they think, "Ooh, she's it," and that's great. So I get a lot of emails about things that, you know, court issues, drain issues, jail issues, all sorts of issues. And that's not unusual, which is just fine. But I don't have any voicemails on mine, and I haven't had any calls. So the two people I talked to were pretty representative of an elected official's office and a non-elected official office. And they were both like, doesn't seem to be a problem. So I'm sure that, you know, sooner or later there will be issues, but we don't seem to have them yet. And interestingly enough, you both might be interested. You know, county administrators and controllers, we email all 83 of us all sorts of questions, related and not related to this situation on a regular basis of what are you doing, what are you doing, what are you doing? And the smaller counties, particularly those in the UP, some of them never really closed. And they're very small offices, they're very small operations, and many of their operations are in the same building as the courts. So therefore, they have security at the doors, which is the same situation that a lot of counties have. We don't have that. You know, we only have security at one building. But it was interesting today, somebody had sent out an email last night that said, hey, who's open? And it was interesting reading through these today, and I probably read through 35 of them so far. I would say maybe more than half hadn't entered into the phase of having anybody or most people back. They were kind of like, well, we're still working on our plan, or geez, we can't get PPE, or those types of things. So I was kind of heartened to read that, you know, we have PPE. We've every one of our offices, every single workstation, every single building has had those all delivered from our stockpile. We have all that stuff. We have a good plan. We're moving forward. And looking at those that were quote unquote open, I would say the vast majority of them were closed to the public and doing what we're doing. So we're not unusual.
And also, I know the recycling center opened on the 4th, and yesterday was the first day. I think they started doing the curbside. Any word of mouth coming from that? A lot of people, are they getting overflow? What they see? Did you hear anything about yesterday with the curbside, whether there was too much, too little? We kind of had a little talk before you came on board about that, but I saw today. But what have they reported anything on Monday's pickup at all, or not?
No, I haven't talked to Jake about it. Have you, Nicole?
No, I think he comes home and he collapses at the end of the workday. I didn't talk to him after curbside yesterday, which I think is probably a good thing. I think things probably went very smoothly. I think the press release got the word out about limiting the amount of material. I know when they opened last Thursday, he was, his drivers were chasing their tail just on site, trying to empty those containers as quick as people could fill them. It was, I think he said on a normal day, they might empty those once, maybe twice. And like prior to 11 a.m., they had already emptied them 5 times, so people showed up.
He and I were, and Jake and I don't know, I can't remember now if we perhaps emailed or I did talk to him on Thursday. I think I did talk to him on Thursday, but I said to him, please tell me the line of vehicles isn't all the way out to Mission. He's like, nope, it's not, but it's out our gates. And I'm like, okay. They had a tremendous response to people bringing things in. And I have not heard, the good thing is I haven't heard any complaint from anybody about, they had to wait in their car a long time, I have not heard any complaints about the please only put 3 bins out to start, but if you want to bring extra things in, bring them in. And we're not charging the public to do that at this point. We'll be reassessing that probably soon. But at this point, it's like, we're not going to do that. So I think it's going very well.
Yeah, how much do you think?
I do think that whole staff goes home and collapses at night. They're working hard.
I'm sure that the city hiring Republic there a couple of weeks ago to haul a bunch of it helped tremendously. I know it helped me clean out my garage, so it's getting piled back up again. But tomorrow's.
Yeah, it did help tremendously to have the city do that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Tobin, can you still hear me, Tobin? You're froze on my screen.
Yeah, he's froze on mine as well. The connection's there, but it must be a weak connection.
So
Trash days.
Squirrels.
There he is.
there you go. Tobin, you back now?
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You had a stern jaw look for about 25 seconds there. So
Well, that was you guys. You guys all froze.
see, Margaret, I was going to make the comment that I'm the one with the face for radio, not you, but I can't do that today. So, I got nothing further on the COVID-19 update. Like I said, I did have our soda shop is going to be reopening. So I got another COVID thing I got to deal with getting that ready. So if anybody wants to know that, we'll probably look for next week. We got to get some plexiglass stuff in. That's going to be our biggest hang up, and we'll probably go very limited menu. So just for the county employees who like soup. There you
Great. Will
go.
it be the potato salad and the egg salad sandwiches on your
See,
limited menu?
If Agnes is going to be there, you can, 1 week's potato salad, the next week is what? Macaroni salad and egg salad, I think's always
Gosh,
there.
that potato salad's to die
Um,
for. And her egg salad sandwiches are to die for.
So I've got an 80, well, she's 82 now, so she'll be wearing this, I haven't seen it yet. I've seen one of these, the facial shield, because she has
Yes.
trouble with masks. So, and we're not gonna put her walking around too much out there anyway, so it'll be interesting. We'll see how it rolls. I mean, good thing
Luck
we
with it. I
don't,
hope it goes well.
yeah, the good thing that's ever been a money generator anyway. So actually, people laugh when I say that's probably made money having it closed, but that's beside the point. So, all right, I got nothing else. Call to the public. Anybody there yet?
No, sir, no one is on for public comment.
Tobin, you got anything to add? All right, I got nothing either, so we'll adjourn at, is it 10:46, something like that? All right, we'll adjourn at 10:46. Very good. All right, everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Thank
You
you.
too. See ya.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.